Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're looking at something really interesting, a political party's manifesto that's actually two manifestos in one. You've got the practical, let's get this done now list, and then you've got this radical blueprint for tomorrow that could, literally rewrite the entire political system. So, we're diving into the manifesto of Nepal's Rashtriya Swatantra Party, the RSP. And yeah, they've laid out this super bold agenda. But here's the twist. The real story isn't just about what they promise. It's about what the country's constitution will allow. And that brings up the big question, right? How much of this grand vision can actually become reality? Okay, so to really get what's going on here, you have to understand a fundamental rule of politics. Not all promises are created equal. It's like there are two completely different roads a promise can take to become a reality. And trust me, knowing which road is which, well, that changes everything. And here it is, the political game board laid out for us. You've got path one, ordinary law. This is your highway. You just need a simple majority, and if you're in power, you can get things done. But then there's path two, constitutional amendment. This is not a highway, this is a steep, treacherous mountain climb. It requires a 2/3 majority, which means you can't do it alone. You have to convince your rivals to climb that mountain with you. All right, so let's start with the easy part, the highway. What's on the RSP's day one to-do list? These are the promises they could start working on right away, using that simple majority. First up, they want to drag the government into the 21st century with a massive digital overhaul. We're talking about putting every single government service online, creating a national digital ID for everyone, and get this, a system where you, the citizen, can track your paperwork in real time. On top of that, they want to reform the civil service based on merit. These are huge changes, but the key is they can all be done with standard laws and executive actions. Now, let's talk money. The manifesto is aiming for a really ambitious 7% annual GDP growth. And that's not just a nice number to throw around. It's a concrete policy goal they can chase using the government's regular toolkit. You know, the budget, fiscal policies, no constitutional changes needed. And then there's the big build. They're planning a huge push on infrastructure. We're talking about seriously expanding the national power grid, rolling out thousands of kilometers of new highways, and even investing in things like metros and light rail for the cities. Again, all of this falls squarely into the category of normal government business. The list just keeps going, right? Into social policy. Things like universal health care, better public schools, stronger social safety nets for kids and the elderly, and making sure workplaces are safe and pay a minimum wage. All of these are on the table, and they all fit into that first category, totally achievable with a simple majority. So what's the big takeaway here? When you pile all this up, the digital stuff, the economy, social welfare, you realize a huge, really impactful chunk of the RSP's manifesto is basically an actionable to-do list. A government with a simple majority could, in theory, start checking these boxes from day one. Okay, but what about those massive, system-shaking promises we hinted at? Well, now it's time to leave the highway and start climbing that steep constitutional mountain. This is where we get into their visionary, long-term blueprint. And the first climb is a huge one, changing the very DNA of the government. They want to move from the current parliamentary system to one with a directly elected executive president. This isn't just changing a policy, it's rewriting the fundamental rules of how power works in the country. And right alongside that, they want to completely change how parliament is even elected. A move to a fully proportional system would totally shake up the political landscape. And, you guessed it, that means amending the core parts of the Constitution that define how elections work. And the list of these foundational changes just keeps coming. They're talking about barring members of parliament from also being ministers, letting voters recall politicians they don't like, making local government nonpartisan, overhauling how judges are appointed. Every single one of these ideas hits right at the heart of the Constitution. So what does this 2/3 majority hurdle actually look like in practice? Well, it's a beast. You need to get at least 184 votes in the lower house and 40 in the upper house. No single party can do that on its own. It's just not possible. You absolutely have to build a wide-ranging consensus across the entire political aisle. And the process itself, it's like an obstacle course, a real gauntlet. You have to draft the bill, then get that 2/3 vote in the House of Representatives, then you have to do it again in the National Assembly, and then you need the president to sign off. The whole thing is designed to be really, really hard to make sure the country's founding document isn't changed on a whim. So you might be wondering, why have we spent all this time splitting these promises into two piles? Well, it's because understanding this difference between the to-do list and the blueprint is the absolute key to understanding the RSP's entire political strategy. And this is where it gets really tricky. Our source material points out that the party's biggest, flashiest, most signature reforms, they face a massive bottleneck. They are completely dependent on getting their political rivals on board. This is especially true in the upper house, where the election cycle is staggered, meaning you can't just win one election and get control. It's a long game. So, after all this, what does this split personality manifesto mean for the most important person in any democracy? You, the voter. It really leaves you with a tough choice, doesn't it? When a party comes to you with a vision like this, with two different paths, which one do you focus on? Do you vote for the practical, achievable stuff they can do right now, or do you put your faith in the ambitious, world-changing blueprint for tomorrow, even though you know it's going to be a monumental political fight? That's the real dilemma here, and it gets to the very heart of what this party is all about.